Up from the Skies, a track that grows with you. I want to spend a bit more time with a track that has stayed with me for most of my adult life, and which oddly enough has become more revealing, not less, as the years have gone on. This is Jimi Hendrix, from the album Axis, Bold as Love, and the track is Up from the Skies. Before we get into listening notes, I want to start with how I first came across it. I remember reading about this album in Oz magazine. If you were around at the time, you'll remember Oz wasn't really a music magazine in the modern sense. It was part politics, part counterculture, part mischief, more about ways of seeing the world than about product reviews. A week or so later, a friend of mine turned up with a copy of the album and simply said, "Here, you'll enjoy this." And he was right. Sadly, that friend died not long afterwards, in a freak accident, electric radio falling into the bath. His nickname was Flash, and he had very blonde hair, a bit of a hippie. He had moved to Manchester, and maybe substances were involved. If you know him, please mention in the comments. One of those moments that lodges itself permanently in your memory, whether you want it to or not. So this track has always carried a kind of double weight for me, a sense of discovery and a sense of loss. And perhaps that's one reason it has continued to open up over time. Now, to the music itself. By the way, if you want to, please like, subscribe, and ring the notifications bell. It would be much appreciated. I don't think Up from the Skies works if you approach it expecting drama or virtuosity in the obvious sense. It's gentle, almost conversational. But as a recording, it is astonishingly sophisticated. Let's start with the most important thing. Coherent positioning. On a properly set up system, Hendrix's voice does not sit on the speakers. It sits between them, but crucially, slightly forward, with air around it. It should sound relaxed, unforced, and lightly suspended in space. If the voice feels flat, or pinned, or oddly heavy, that's already telling you something about your system often, before you've consciously noticed anything wrong. Now, bring your attention to the guitar. This is where the track becomes really interesting. The guitar does not simply accompany the voice. It moves in relation to it. Not in a showy, left-right panning way, but in a subtle, three-dimensional sense. Slightly behind the voice, then slightly above it, then drifting laterally, almost as if it's thinking out loud. On a coherent system, this movement feels intentional. It feels calm. It feels organized. On a less well-integrated system, one of three things usually happens. Either the guitar collapses into the speaker plane, or the movement turns into blur, or the guitar becomes etched and disconnected from the voice. All of those failures are extremely informative. They're not about detail. They're about timing, phase, and integration. This is one of the reasons this track improves so dramatically as systems improve. It doesn't shout at you, it waits for you to catch up. And that's something I've found repeatedly over the years. Each time I've made a meaningful improvement, better speaker placement, better bass integration, better timing, the track hasn't just sounded clearer. It sounded more intelligible as a piece of thought. Which brings me to the lyrics. There's a very strong, hippie, late 60s sensibility, who are almost science fiction. This is not Hendrix boasting or posturing. It's more like a space traveler returning to Earth. Someone who has been away, who comes back and finds something has gone badly wrong. I came back to find the stars displaced and the smell of a world that is burning. That line is sung twice, and it matters that it's sung twice. The first time, it's observational. The second time, it's more knowing. And in between and around it you get this extraordinarily jazzy, fluid guitar work, which never overwhelms the meaning of the words. The guitar here is not showing off. It's commenting on a good system. You can hear that relationship very clearly. The voice states, the guitar reflects, and the space around them holds the thought together. This is why bass integration matters so much on this track. A poorly integrated subwoofer doesn't just add bass, it changes the emotional center of gravity. When the low frequencies are even slightly wrong phase, wrong placement, wrong crossover, the voice becomes heavier, slower, less agile. And suddenly, the idea of a floating observer, a returning traveler, is gone. Everything drops to the floor. When the bass is right, though, something remarkable happens. The voice stays light, the guitar keeps its mobility, and the whole track feels suspended, almost weightless. That's not accidental. It's part of the illusion. This is also why this track tends to sound better and better as time goes on. Not just because systems improve, but because your listening improves. You stop listening for effects. You start listening for relationships. Voice to guitar, sound to space, meaning to movement. And that's something I've noticed very strongly in recent years. What used to sound merely pleasant now sounds intelligent. What used to sound relaxed now sounds precise. And that precision doesn't come at the expense of warmth or humanity. If anything, it deepens it. This is one of the reasons I keep coming back to older recordings like this when thinking about system setup. They don't cheat. They don't exaggerate bass or spotlight detail to impress you. They simply present a set of relationships and wait for you and your system to resolve them properly. That makes them unforgiving, but also incredibly rewarding. And it's also where I think modern tools, including AI-assisted ones, can genuinely help. Not by telling you what to like, but by helping you understand why something feels wrong when it does, and why it suddenly clicks when it doesn't. This track is going to come back again in future videos, especially when I start showing practical changes, subwoofer placement, phase alignment, small positional adjustments, how they alter exactly the kinds of listening cues we've been talking about here. But even on its own, Up from the Skies is a reminder of something important. Great recordings don't age out. They age in. They wait for you. And sometimes they carry with them not just sound, but memory of discovery, of friendship, of loss, and somehow still manage to sound calm, reflective, and generous. Some of my videos are going to explain how you can change your setup to get incredible results using AI. I used it to balance my sub and main speakers, and it made a vast difference, which is a remarkable thing, really. If you found this interesting, please subscribe, like, and ring the notifications bell. Thanks for joining, and see you soon.